So Les and I are a similar age. So our journeys, his was down the road of playing music, and because we're first generation,
That's right.
Black, the UK. So we did a lot of firsts. So as he talked about the music, for the younger generation, that was a first for them to play in conventions. So that's why they started playing so young, because of the opportunity was there. For myself, my mother having a local church, and one of the ways to raise funds was to have programs. So you'd invite other churches to come around, and my mother
They're
again
like mini concerts, aren't they?
well ahead of her time, but she'd have New Testament brethren come. Reefa Graham, Reefa Lita, Pastor Graham, her name was, and she, again, woman out of her time, really engaged with young people.
Loved young people.
Loved young people.
Yes, she did.
And for a small church, when she started with children, she'd literally walk around the area and ask children who were playing in the street, couldn't do that now, take me to your mum.
Yeah.
And that's what she'd do. Take me to, where's your mum? And she'd go and say to them, rather than be on the street, I'll have them for Sunday school. And that's how she started back in the late 60s, maybe 67, 68. And then the church in 1971 was organised with 8 members. She died in 1988, and there were nearly 100 members.
That's right.
And half of the church, 50% of the church, were young people.
Yeah.
So she attracted, and not all of them were from church families. So, usually it's like, you come to church with your parents and then you become part of the church. Well, my mum won young people. So we had, quite a wealth of young people in our local church. So anyway, going back to the programme. So with programmes, you have a choir that would sing. So we had the older people. And then because, you had to be part of the choir, so we'd be singing with the choir.
Hymnals.
Singing hymns or Negro spirituals.
Yes, as well.
So we'd be taught. Sister Burton was our kind of choir mistress. And I remember her, you had to stand with your hand on your hip, on your waistline, and point your finger when you were singing the Negro spirituals. Brilliant. But again, those are highlights. But there was a gap. There was the need or a space for there to be, young people
to be connected,
singing. So we'd sing the older songs, and then obviously in tandem came the Andre Crouches, and we wanted to be able to sing those kind of songs, a bit more upbeat. So I recall my mother sent me to the General Assembly of the Church of God of Prophecy in 1977.
America, wasn't it?
1977. My first year going to the General Assembly. And myself and Pat Womack, I remember it very distinctly, Pat Womack.
That was in America, wasn't it?
In America,
that's right.
Sorry. Pat Womack, previously McCullough, so Bishop Theophilus McCullough, T.A. McCullough's daughter. So we were there that year. We were around maybe 16, 17 that year. And we heard this choir, Battle Creek Choir from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, the choir director,
unbelievable.
The chord arrangement, like the big sound of a choir, blew us away. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if all the choirs around our district, in District 4, came together to make one choir. And that's how the District 4 mass choir was birthed, really. It was very embryonic. So in 1977, we talked about it. We had to persuade Brother McCullough, Pastor McCullough, who was the district overseer, persuade him to let us, have this choir, because he said, well, we've got a choir already. It was like the older people, and we had to sing the hymns and things, which we loved. And don't get me wrong, we loved the hymns, but singing "Earthly fame may never be my lot to hold" was very different too. Genesis, 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 Genesis. So so we were given our little screeds, but it didn't happen until the kind of early 80s, really, 84, 85, it didn't really happen until then. But my local church choir, so I'll talk a bit about mass choir in a little while, but my local church choir now, we moved from programmes to having concerts. My mother saw that we could raise even more funds if we charged people at the door. Because when you had programs, you didn't charge people at the door. They'd come in and then they'd boost. So it would be like, 10 pence this person to sing, 5 pence that person don't sing, £1 don't say nothing, sit down, and the night would string out, and all of the items we couldn't get through because of this kind of bidding backward and forward. So we had a concert, and to obviously attract not just the church family, but people outside of church, so neighbours and things like that. You needed to have a choir that sounded like something sensible. So in our local church, we didn't have any musicians. We had like my brother Lenny, who would play the guitar, but he wasn't kind of skilled. He played, but he wasn't skilled, and Jerry Cohen that would play the guitar as well. But so for a concert where you're inviting quite a big crowd, we needed musicians. In comes Trevor. Trevor and who was head of the Shiloh band, and let us kind of beautifully described how they came about. And I became friends with Trevor when we used to go on the coach to Ministers' Convention. So anyway, he brought me a sausage roll, I think. I think it was a sausage roll at a service station.
And he was there. And never looked back. You never looked back since. You never looked back since.
And there's a story behind that, I haven't got time to go into it now, but back then, if boys talked to girls, oh my gosh, it was a big deal. Anyway, someone went to tell my mum that some boy took me out to eat. It was Trevor buying me a sausage roll. Anyway, but anyway, that was beside the point. But so Trevor graciously said he'd come and play for my choir. So the young people at my church, we'd learn the songs, again, choir songs. So at the time, it would either have been Walter Hawkins, a choral arrangement by Walter Hawkins. It would have been something that Andre Crouch might have sung, one of his songs, or from that era. And so we'd learn the songs first. We'd get the pitch from the tape that we'd listen to, and then Trevor would learn the music. He and the Shiloh band, Glenn, Trevor, and Les. And then Beres came a bit later on down the line as percussionist. And then we'd come on a Sunday, maybe 6 weeks or so before the convention, before the concert, we'd come together, the music and the voices, and then work it out, because obviously the musicians would have played in a particular way. We would have sung it a particular way, and then we'd work it out. But in the end, there was a marriage. And it was awesome, just having that live sound, the live band. And then when we went, we started off obviously having the concerts in the church hall, because we were at Old Fallings Lane, United Reformed Church in Wolverhampton. And because as a choir, we were getting more proficient, because the music was complementing what we were doing, then my mother, again, who was out of her time, pushed the boundaries. So a little church, backwaters in Wolverhampton, we had a concert at the Wolfen Town Hall.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Trevor and the band came to play. And I recall Les couldn't play for one of the concerts that we did. And Ray had to be the drummer for us. But he had to come to practices anyway.
No choice.
The brothers had no choice but to take him, because Sister Prince, their mum, Frances Prince, wouldn't allow Trevor and Glenn to go without taking Ray with them. And we had awesome concerts, spirit-filled, the anointing was there, the people begged for more, and we'd always leave them wanting more. That was our trick. You always finish on a high note, knowing that people want to come back to hear you next year. And obviously in between, we'd sing at other people's concerts and so on. But annually, we'd have our own concerts. So we became proficient. And clearly, you can imagine this being replicated at each of the churches around
Dudley,
the region. Dudley, Small Heath,
amazing,
and so forth. And then the choirs, and what was born out of the choirs was groups. And then we'd sing Clark Sisters songs or Barrett Sisters songs. So that, as smaller chorales, we again began to develop our skills, and out of that came True Vine, as Les was saying, in Dudley, and so on. And then all of those choirs, when Pastor Matt gave us the green light, came together as a mass choir, the Birmingham Mass Choir, Church of God of Prophecy, and we had at our peak. At our peak, we were maybe 420. At our peak, we had 420 members of the Mass Choir, and we sang at places like the Birmingham Town Hall. We sang on TV. We sang in America. We sang in the Bahamas. We were recorded, live in America when we sang there. So it built fantastic friendships, as you can well imagine, when we had rehearsals, and we were very disciplined in our rehearsal time. Trevor played for the Mass Choir at one point. He played with Josh and so forth, and Vindel for the Mass Choir. And we would stretch our capabilities, stretch our voices. We didn't stick to songs that were kind of out there. We'd look for people like the New Jersey Mass, Timothy Wright, Thomas Whitfield, the Tommies, James Thompson and the Community Choir. We'd stick all of their materials, and we wouldn't find the ones that were commonly known. So when we had our concerts in the Town Hall in Birmingham, we'd sing songs like TikTok. I mentioned Genesis. We'd do old favourites, or we'd get some hymns and rearrange them so that we'd put our own spin on material, or write our own stuff. Aberdeen Street Youth Choir used to do that, write their own material and so forth. So we had a phenomenal experience. We had lead singers. Some of the things that, I didn't consider myself a singer per se, but, I'd lead some of the songs or direct the Mass Choir along with Joy, the late Lorna Watson Simmons, affectionately known as Joy, and her sister Hazel, who would sing the lead in some of those songs. So all in all, and again, I want to make sure I capture this as well, we weren't insular. Although there were possibly issues, particularly,
denominational
boundaries going up through maybe the 70s. In the 60s it wasn't like that, but towards the kind of 80s, there was this sort of, apostolic can't mix with prophecy and so forth. As a age, our young people, we challenge those boundaries. So if Highgate New Testament was having a concert, we'd go and sing for them, or we'd invite Highgate to come and sing, with us. So we tried to break down a lot of those divides and barriers and so forth, and had a platform. We used to call it the circuit. So we'd be singing on the circuit with Dave Copeland, back in the day, the Highgate Choir, New Testament Choir, and a lot of the Mass Choir singers now. A lot of them went on to do great things. BV, Sister Brown's daughters, Gloria Brown's daughters, and go on, be backing vocalists for artists and so on. And our musicians, again, would go and do the same, or their children. So I remember Gareth Brown, him going to play drums for someone. And we fostered youth. So we'd have young people coming in and playing, or, they joined the Mass Choir at 12, 13, and so forth. So again, it was an avenue for us to have fellowship and fun and so on, and be competitive. So the Birmingham Mass Choir would be competitive with the London Mass Choir, so that when we had our conventions, we'd be at the back and watch the London choir sing, and we go, we're coming on next, make sure, and Joy would have us drill. We'd drill with our vocal warm-ups and so on, and then we'd go and smash it. The Lord was in there as well somewhere, praise you, Jesus. But it was very much about demonstrating our talents and our ability with our singing. Yeah, so.
A lot there.
Did I go on too much?
No, because there's enough for me, there's enough for Roger.
The thing is, because I work with Karen Gibson.
Oh, you know Karen.
And
she was they were in London.
She's really PC in it.
Yeah.
So I explained to her that there's an issue with London.
As far as I know.
Yes.
She was too young. She was too young. They wouldn't have known then.
She was too young.
She was too young. She wouldn't have known.
She was too young. Oh God, they were. And our district. Is it still recorded? But you cut this bit out. But our district overseers hyped that up.
Oh, I do.
So you had TA saying we had the best. We were the best choir, the best musicians, the best offerings, the best this, that, the other. So after like London would sing, and then Pastor could get up and say, yeah, I was saying, oh, praise. He said, and now we're going to be hearing from all the most fantastic, and he built us up. And then when we finished, his head was like this big. There was definitely a...
You could back it.
Yeah, he could definitely back it because, we did have the Josh McCullers who played, the Vindels, the Lesburns, we definitely had it. Yeah, definitely had it.
I've got two more questions. The first one is, what was the impact of the growing up?
Yes, definitely.
That's the question. What do these songs, all the songs that I'm covering and stuff that you grew up with,
oh yes,
what do they mean to you?
Oh God, yes.
So
definitely.
just those, is that
That's
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.